Okay. I plug it in at my work. Namo tassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammang sangham namasami. Welcome everybody to this regular Tuesday evening program with Dhamma. As usual, we will start this evening with some meditation. I invite you to come to an upright, stable posture for meditation, which is comfortable enough so that you can stay without moving the body very much. Sitting in a chair, being aware of the contact of the feet with the ground, or sitting on a cushion, being aware of the touch points connecting with the cushion or the floor. Feeling the weight of the body. Aware of the space where you are sitting. Letting go of any aggravations or excitement from the day, or any worries or plans about tomorrow. Making a decision to direct awareness to the present moment, what can be perceived with the senses, especially through that touching sensation on the body. Including those aspects of the mind that are directly arising and connected to what comes up with the senses. So when there's a touch, one may have a mental image of the body touching. One may have a feeling which is pleasant or unpleasant. One may have some intention for right now, intending to pay attention to that touching sensation. triggered from that touching sensation. A memory or some idea or some emotion could come along. Trying to be so alert and so mindful to see the moment, the connection between some touch and some mental formation that comes up. And then returning again and again to the simplicity of the touching sensation. Wherever the touching sensation is noticeable, seeing how much you can notice. How many different touches can you notice? If the touch of breath is noticeable, and keep the awareness there. Or letting awareness spread out through the entire body, sensitive to all the touches throughout the body. If you need help to stay connected with touching, can use the word like breathing in and softly say to yourself, touching, and breathe out. Softly say, aware, touching, aware. As long as you need this help to stay with the theme, and then let the mind be silent with no more words, only the sensation of touching. If the mind is happy to stay on this theme, notice what it's like, that stability of the mind. And if the mind is trying to wander off to something else, notice what that's like. And come back as soon as you can to just be on this theme, the sensation of touching. just aware of the touching. Through the entire body, in the breath, only touching. And coming near the end of this brief meditation, being aware of the whole body sitting on the seat or the cushion, aware of the room where you are, opening the eyes to look around. aware of your situation in time, coming together, a certain kind of an image, who you are in relation to your history and your expectations, and feeling how it changes when you're just simply sensitive to touching, and when it all clicks together about who you are in your own world. I could welcome anybody's comment at this time. If you would like to mention how this meditation on the sensation is for you, and why do you think that the Blessed One, the Buddha, recommended investigating the six sense faculties and the sensations arising from the senses? Why is that one of the important types of meditation that we can do? Or just if you'd like to say anything about how this meditation is for you. In that case, I'll be happy to go ahead. I have an agenda. The theme that I wanted to develop this time. What I said was the topic and the promotion for tonight was about looking more deeply. This is a part of the overall context of doing a little further exploration about yoniso manasikara, or giving proper attention, wise attention. That word sometimes is described as referring to what we pay attention to, where the mind is directed. Is it directed to ideas and themes that cause an increase of our afflictions, our greed, our aversions, and so forth? Or is the attention directed towards objects or ideas that cause the reduction and finally the escape from those afflictions, that greed, that aversion, that delusion? Here in Majjhima 2, the Sabbasava Sutta, the sutta about all the taints, is one of the more extended descriptions that Buddha gave about what wise attention is. He starts out with unwise attention. And he says, a person, they attend improperly, thinking, how did I exist in the past? Did I not exist in the past? What was I in the past? After being what did I become? Will I exist in the future? Will I not exist in the future? How will I be in the future after being what? What will I be in the future? Or they're undecided about the present moment. Say, am I? Am I not? What am I? How am I? Um, and so on like that. Uh, um, where did I come from? Where am I going? And then they may come to some kind of a view about the self or the atta, thinking that the self exists in an absolute sense, or it does not exist in an absolute sense. I perceive the self with the self, and so on. These kind of concepts, and this leads to could lead to a view like this self of mine is the one who speaks and feels and experiences the results of good and bad deeds in all the different realms. This self is permanent, everlasting, eternal, imperishable. It will last forever and ever. And the Buddha said, this is a misconception, a thicket of views, the desert of views, a trick of views, evasiveness of views, the fetter of views, all arising from unwise attention. And then the alternative of the wise attention is to direct awareness. This is dukkha. This is the cause of dukkha. This is the cessation of dukkha. This is the way to the cessation of dukkha. So you could read this sutta as being directed to what are you thinking about, or what kind of object are you directing your awareness towards. But I'm going to suggest that this is also telling us something about how we direct our awareness. So it's more of an adverb, how to. There's a certain natural characteristic of the human mind, or the mind of humans and animals, and the way that a mind processes the objects that we come across in the world. And two qualities that I'll point out is, through the senses, all these vibrations and electrons and nerve impulses are coming. And somehow or other, the mind puts it together. And it perceives different kinds of objects externally. And it can even perceive one's own body, or the parts of the body, or one's own mind, or parts of mentality, in a kind of like an objective way. So part of the perception has to do with compactness. So this is a cup. So if I perceive the cup as being a cup, I'm seeing that all of it, like, the top, the bottom, the round, and the handle, and the inside and the outside, all of it is cup. And so it's got that compact, that the nature of that concept of cup applies to every of this particular object. And and it has a separation. It's surrounded by air, and now it's being held up by my hand. And then when I set it down, it's resting on the table, and the hand and the air and the table are all not the cup. So the cup is the cup, and all of the other things are not the cup. And then the other thing that the mind does is it attributes a continuity to different objects. So I've seen this cup before, and so it's one of the cups we have in the monastery, and I recognize that it's the same cup as it was yesterday. And so then when applied to the self or to an individual looking internally, they could have their perception that every part of the mind, every part of their a material body is all that individual. And then the air around them and the chair and the clothing or something is not that individual. And they might have the idea that there's definitely some kind of a connection between that same person this morning and that same person this evening and the same person tomorrow. So it attributes that continuity. And so then this is all very natural. There's nothing magical. I don't want to make it into a deep philosophy problem, but simply to notice that this way of perceiving, if we just go with that, it puts a kind of like a shell around each different object in our world, making each object seem to be very distinct and separated from its surroundings. The mind can overemphasize that distinctive characteristic. In fact, it might even recognize, like, we don't like fully grok all of the aspects of the reality of any particular object that we're paying attention to. We just notice enough sufficiently so that I can tell that, like, here I can see Venerable Kachayana and Richard and another Richard and Anne. And so, because I put my scroll over and that reminds me who your names are, even if I didn't recognize you, so that's a sign. And I don't necessarily fully know the totality of you, but there's a sign there, that's the name. I can tell the difference between, there's three people in the room here. One of us dressed in more like a dark brown, and one is wearing a more of a bright colored robes, and another one is wearing white robes. So it's very easy for me to tell which is which because of that superficial sign. We overemphasize some sign that gets picked up by the mind, that it makes us create separation. And so in practice, one of the things that Ayya Sobhana Sikara is it could pick up the sign of beauty in an unskillful way that gives rise to greed, or it could pick up the sign of repulsiveness in an unskillful way that gives rise to aversion or a fear or something related to that, because we don't see the totality. We just picked up a sign and then start reacting to it in a way which is very much related to what we want to do. So persons, individuals are constantly creating comments and doing things intentionally in relationship to all the objects in the world. So I'll give you another example. What this unskillful or superficial grasping after signs could have an evil result. There's a discussion that's going on these days about race and racism that some scholars say there's not really enough of a clear difference among what is said to be supposedly the different racial groups in the world. And it's just not a useful concept that it shouldn't even be recognized anymore. And then, among this conversation, there's one intelligent person pointed out that humans have got this very highly developed ability to make these distinctions among different groups of people. And even apart from these very wide groupings about races, there's a difference between like a Vietnamese person or an Indian person or a Samoan person or a Chinese person. And persons who live in those countries can notice the difference. And then even if you went to a very small place like England, they have a variety of different regional accents. And just within that one little island, I think there's many different accents. And so somebody who's English can very quickly tell where you came from or where your people came from. And they might even be able to tell whether you're probably a working class or probably upper class person just by hearing one or two words of your voice. And so then all of these distinctions and divisions get made in how we see people based on grasping after these signs. And if we stop there, this is what I would say is ayoniso, because it's a superficial way of looking that just goes up to the nimitta or the sign and stops there. So the nimitta, the sign or the characteristic, is a kind of like a shell that defines that person or that object and who it is and what it's good for and what our attitude or relationship is going to be by that grasping the superficial. So then the yoniso manasikara was a reflection, I think would have several differences. Wise reflection could be able to see complexity or diversity that an object has got many different characteristics. You might see that like a beautiful object is partly repulsive because let's say this beautiful object can trigger greed, and then the greed is the cause of suffering. And so, or this beautiful object, or this this beautiful object is impermanent, and then it can trigger anxiety because I don't want it to change because I like it the way it is, and I don't want it to become different, but it's always becoming different. And so then that anxiety or that stress, that's another part of suffering, so that there's something that's repulsive in that. And the reverse is also true, so that something that's unpleasant, if we see it in a different way, let's say, like, for example, a bad person. Well, they're only bad because of causes and conditions. And so I see that this bad person got to be so deprived because of all of the unfortunate circumstances that they've been through. And so then that would trigger in me a sense of compassion. And that compassion is a wholesome karma, so that there's something good and pleasant in encountering this bad person with that kind of compassionate attitude, or even looking at a bad person, you could do this inquiry. Well, are they really 100%? And you could see in them, well, they're not completely bad, partly good. And if you focus the mind on their goodness, you could see that your aversion towards them can be replaced with kindness, by not just being obsessed with their negative or unskillful qualities. So that is one aspect of this Yoni Samanishikara, is to look beyond. So instead of just looking at the body, which can be a cause of all kinds of emotions, if you break up the body and you look at the different parts of the body, head hairs, body hairs, nails, teeth, skin, flesh, sinews, and so on and so on, and look at all the different parts inside of the body, then whatever unskillful desire or aversion you might have had towards how the body can change and become something otherwise. So then that impression of the compact quality of the body breaks up in that way. It occurs to me, I especially, there's one case in particular about the meditation on the sense faculties and the Vedana the whole process of the sense faculty and the contact, and the Vedana and the knowing that arises from that. In the Dhatu Vibhanga Sutta, in the middle length discourses, the discourse of the elements, it has a central teaching about perceiving the material elements. But before that teaching about the material elements, the reviews the sense spaces. And I believe that there can be a way in which this tendency of this Ayoniso Manasikara to be looking at the outward appearance of things in a superficial way can be very directly overcome by directing awareness to the senses, because the touches of just the touch of the senses is kind of like a shimmering, pointillistic and kind of disconnected from that snapping together of a perception of a compact object. So it has a way of helping us to break up that superficial way of looking. That was the reason that I thought of offering that as the meditation theme this time. So another aspect of Yoniso Manasikara is seeing things within a wider context. So instead of just seeing, let's say, the elements like the earth element in terms of the hardness of the teeth and the bones inside the body, or the earthiness of the flesh inside the body, and then if you move the awareness outside and notice the earth element externally in the world, in other bodies or in the material aspect of the world, and notice that the hardness of floor is similar to the hardness of the fingernail, that it's only hardness, that then looking at the quality of hardness within a wider context then breaks up the division of the world into these distinct objects. Another way of seeing something in a wider context is seeing any object in a context of causation. The metaphor that I have been enjoying recently is if somebody was a miner and they found a vein of gold inside a cave, or they find some diamonds. One could just focus on the gold or just focus on the diamond. In a way, if you did that, you wouldn't really understand the gold. You wouldn't really understand the diamond if you only focused on that object. But the earth where those jewels are embedded, it's called the matrix. And the geologist studies and understands the kind of matrix where the jewels or the minerals are embedded. And so then he's got a different kind of understanding of diamond, or a different understanding of gold, by way of understanding how, perhaps even the history, like how it came to be formed and how it came to be within that particular kind of geology. And so just the same way, if you look at any human being or any living creature and see how they are surrounded by the ecology of the natural world where they're situated, and how they're surrounded by the social world of the other creatures that are around them, or how they're surrounded by the cultural world that's around them, then you could understand the individual in a different kind of way. It would be a way of looking more deeply. The most powerful concept of causation that's offered is the Four Noble Truths, of course. So whatever is painful, what's ever connected with sorrow, lamentation, grief, with afflictions, if we study that and investigate it very well, and find out what the cause, what the fundamental cause is. If we can have a direct experience of letting go of that craving, which is the cause of dukkha, and experiencing even a small portion of the freedom and the escape from suffering comes whenever we have managed to let go of any small portion of craving, or whether there's something in the past that we had a really strong and heavy um, aspect of craving that was really dominating our lives and that we suffered from greatly. And if somehow or other through this practice of the Dhamma or through our natural maturing and psychological growth, we put aside and that which obsessed our minds in the past is now not the least bit compelling to us, and recognizing the freedom that we have from that, seeing that, okay, it's possible for craving to let go and for suffering to cease, and then to know even more at a fine-grained way in terms of the path of practice, how different practices along the training, the entire training that we have, could lead to either increasing the dukkha that we experience it, or else lead us towards the allayment, tranquilizing, reducing, and eventually eliminating the dukkha that we experience. And so practicing guarding the senses, abandoning, finding out how to abandon and let go of negative states, unwholesome states, learning how to cultivate wholesome states, learning how to stabilize and expand and develop the wholesome states to the fullest, is all of that entire training along the path. That's all another like aspect of causation. So anytime you have a doubt about like here's some thought, I have a thought. Would I like to continue entertaining this thought? Shall I continue thinking this way? Or should I give up this thought? Well, one very good way to think about it is, where is it leading to? If I keep thinking this kind of thought all day long, is it going to be harmful to me? Is this thought actually a toxic thought that's hurting me and hurting somebody else? And if it's poison, then don't keep it. But if it's not poisonous, if it's harmless to me, harmless to anybody else, then okay to continue thinking that kind of thought. So this is contemplating objects in a context, a different context, but within that context of causation, which way is it leading? Is it helping or hindering our cultivation along the path? That would be a very sensible application of yoniso manasikara. So it's not just what we pay attention to, but how we pay attention to it. When I first encountered the Dhamma, it seems like the four foundations of mindfulness was one of, and the practice of mindfulness, especially in the West, was one of the first things that they were teaching Western Dhamma students about, in terms of the meditation practice and learning how to direct the mind towards the continuity of awareness, continuity of mindfulness. And it seemed to me very early on that if you were having a really great meditation where the mind was very settled and able to come to a theme of meditation and stay there and stay on the theme, that you could be mindful of that and have really excellent mindfulness with having that great meditation. Or on another occasion, if the mind is restless or disturbed in some way, and you have a really terrible meditation and you could barely even sit still, and could hardly hold on to the same theme of meditation for 5 or 6 breaths, one can be mindful of that and notice and see very clearly, like, what it's like when the mind is caught up in some kind of disturbance and doesn't know how to get out of it. And so it seemed at the time that indeed there is not anything that we can experience that's not suitable for mindfulness. But it could be that mindfulness and yoni manasikara are this wise attention or proper attention are sort of related practices. The wise attention or the methodical attention, proper attention, is usually spoken of as more like a preliminary practice. And then samasati is the 7th out of the 8th point in the Noble Eightfold Path. So right mindfulness is a very mature factor in our practice when we've developed it. Therefore, it seems to me that it's would be a very good and useful experiment to try all day long through all the different situations that we come across in life, all the different kinds of states of mind that we experience, whether we're having a really, beautiful day and the mind is really in a beautiful state filled with kindness and energy and interest on all of these wholesome factors, or whether we're having an average day or a difficult day or an afflicted day, that developing this yoniso manasikara is a good way to get into the proper orientation. And then once we get into the correct orientation towards what we're experiencing, then the mindfulness helps us to continue to direct the mind to stay with that. So we remember to keep our awareness of, we don't become forgetful. And we have that continuity of mindfulness. In the foundations of mindfulness, they mention in particular, there's the refrain of mindful of the arising, the cessation, and both. So mindfulness is able to continuously be aware of the flow of impermanence. And the proper reflection, the yoniso manasikara, is able to defeat the delusion of permanence, enable us to make the breakthrough to get to a really good perception of impermanence. So after, with wise reflection, we make that breakthrough to see impermanence. Then with mindfulness, we keep our attention, keep the continuity of holding that into awareness. And so that's sort of my idea about how these two ideas that come up in a different context are perhaps are related to each other. I'm going to stop now, and I'll be happy to hear anybody's comment or if anything I said was confusing, if you have a question, or if you have anything to report about how you think of Yoniso Manasikara and how it's important for your own practice.
Here's
Okay,
a
Richard.
question.
I think Richard Rose, are you Richard?
Yes.
Let me take Richard Rose first, and then I'll take the my other Richard second. Richard, go ahead.
Thank you, Ayya. So we have tools, of which one is right attention for dealing with our own difficulties, because we have a framework from listening to people like you. So if we are suffering, we can use that framework, including impermanence and the understanding of dukkha. Is there anything that we can do to help those around us who we love that do not have our tool set? My wife has just had breast cancer surgery. She is possibly facing a second surgery in one more week. And she is not a friend of the Dhamma at all. That is not her background. What can someone like myself do in a dharmic flavor? Because if I talk to her about impermanence and letting go, it would make no sense. What can we do for others?
It's true that there's some aspects of the Dhamma that can seem kind of harsh for a person who doesn't yet get the whole context of it. Just as you realize, I would recommend, there's a particular kind of metta meditation that was, I guess, was sort of invented or popularized by Bhante Gunaratana. And it's reciting this thought towards the different individuals in our different kinds of individuals or different persons in our life. May they be well, happy, and peaceful. May no harm come to them. May no difficulties come to them. May they always meet with success. May they also have patience, courage, understanding, and determination to meet and overcome the inevitable problems, difficulties, and failures in life. My suggestion is, if you, in your own practice, spend some good amount of time contemplating loving kindness towards your wife with these types of thoughts, just really clarifying your intention for her to do as well as possible in the situation, then you may intuitively be able to find the right words at the right time to help her, because you have, in a way, sort of like purified your intentions so that you're not, like having, I don't know, some judgment or, anything mixed, or like your own anxiety, your own worry, all of this, there's like a mixed bag of emotions that you must be experiencing right now. But try to really develop that loving kindness, compassion, as I'm suggesting, and then when your intention is really clear, then you'll be able to find the skillful words. And when she sees you, if she experiences you as like not being judgmental, not anxious, not angry, but kind of like stable, that also can be something that can be really helpful.
Thank you, Ayya. That's great. Thank you.
Okay. Uh, okay, now Richard again.
Thank you, Ayya. That Sutta Majjhima Nikaya, number 2, that you were
Yes.
quoting from, when he attends unwisely, was I in the past? Was I not in the past? Was I in the past? How was I in the past? Having been what I have come, etc., etc. And then finally, am I not? What am I? How am I? Where has this being come from? Where will it go? So this pattern is a self-objectification. One's trying to objectify oneself and therefore make it a reality. And it's just a perplexing thing. And that's why the Buddha then talks about, these 6 views arise due to those type of thoughts. And none of this actually will free you from the real problem. The real problem is, suffering, right? So that's why he says that, the things that are fit for attention are understanding the, 4 Noble Truths and etc. like that. Those are the things that are fit for attention and understanding. So it's these other things will just kind of make you more and more and more confused. Even if occasionally you come, like he says, 6 views might arise out of these thoughts, right? Even if you come to a view, those are speculative views. They're not based on reality. It's possible you could hit a correct speculation, but because it's total speculation on your part, you don't know if it's a correct thing or not. I'm not saying these are correct views, but I'm just saying that, it's a possibility. But it still doesn't make a reality for you, because reality is what you experience in truth, not what you experience based on projection, and objectification of yourself. So, your real problem is, how do I end all this confusion? I mean, there are all these type of speculative thoughts. This is like a confusion on top of a confusion. And, that's why I mentioned before, I won't go into great detail, but when I had a breakthrough, I was sitting there in a zendo, and the Zen master was giving a talk, and he was saying, and so when you come to the level of the 4th skandha, you begin to ask questions. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where am I going? Like that. And I was in such a focused sense of attention, you might call this yoniso manasikara, listening to him say that that I saw that I was inventing all these things in my own mind. My Chaita, through Chaitana, was inventing these sankharas, these ideas. And I was projecting myself into those ideas and making myself a part of those ideas. That was like continuing on this birth and death, birth and death, birth and death by that process. And so I saw that it was my own mind that was doing this. So you have to get off of this objectification of projecting yourself into objects and see that it's your own mind. It is a subject, not an object. And when you can see it subjectively, then you can see what the real problem is. And the real problem is being caught up in all this samsara, the birth and death, birth and death, birth and death. Anyways, I just wanted to mention that. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Indeed, one aspect of that is, of what you said is, there are certain whole entire systems of thought, whether it be philosophy, sociology, psychology, or politics, that are based on these self-concepts. And then if someone is getting lost in studying and thinking about that, you'll never get close to the escape from dukkha. But the teachings of the Buddha and the various skillful kinds of ways, the many skillful ways that he pointed out, different aspects of the Four Noble Truths and causation, and listening as deeply as we can and immersing ourselves in those teachings can help to prepare the mind for this breakthrough of wisdom. So in that way, the proper attention is having a chance to hear the true Dhamma and paying attention to that theme. So that's like what we're paying attention to. So we're paying attention and not paying attention, sort of like opposite systems. But then the other aspect, what Richard so usefully pointed out, is that we shouldn't just think that it's only other people and who are not Buddhists who are involved in this objectification of the self, but instead it's something that we are naturally doing, and for countless lifetimes, through countless eons, we have been learning how to objectify our own self and to create these formations. And so like a part of the breakthrough is even to see that it's optional. It's not necessary to make oneself into a fixed object like that. It's possible to drop it. And then once saying it's possible, then if we're lucky, we may have the opportunity to practice and to have that kind of breakthrough about finding a different way of seeing, which is free from that creating ourselves as an object. This may be enough for tonight. Thank you, everybody, for your excellent practice and your patient listening. And we can close by giving respect to the Triple Jam. Araham Samma Sambuddha Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Svakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammam Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savakasangho Sangham Namami.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ayya.